Former Vice President Dick Cheney now joining the Slam Fest directed at President Obama over his reaction to the botched Christmas Day terror attack. In a statement, Mr. Cheney said, quote, "It's clear once again that President Obama is trying to pretend we are not at war. He seems to think if he has a low-key response to an attempt to blow up an airliner and kill hundreds of people, we won't be at war. But we are at war, and when President Obama pretends we aren't, it makes us less safe." This, of course, is not the first time Mr. Cheney has accused the Obama administration of weakening the country's security, and he is not the only Republican using this moment to slam the White House. Joining me tonight for this strategy session, CNN political contributor and Democratic strategist James Carville, and Eric Erickson, who's editor-in-chief of RedState.com. Good to have both of you with us. James, in the written response to this statement from the former vice president, Dan Pfeiffer, the White House communications director, said, "Too many are engaged in the typical Washington game of pointing fingers." But then he goes on to say this, quote, "7 years of bellicose rhetoric failed to reduce the threat from al-Qaeda and succeeded in dividing this country. And it seems strangely off-key now at a time when our country is under attack for the architect of those policies to be attacking the president." How is that finger pointing by the White House, James, any different than the finger pointing that they're condemning?
Well, I guess it's finger pointing back. Look, if you ask me, I wouldn't have responded. They just dust him off every month, and he sort of cranked some kind of statement out. The president said there was a systemic breakdown. I thought that was a very smart and courageous thing to say, and let's find out what his breakdown is and, you know, let former Vice President Cheney flop around out there and issue all his press statements. I mean, I don't know if it's really relevant.
Eric, in terms of the former vice president's statement, which we just read part of there, it's interesting, and this has gotten a little bit of play today, that he does criticize the president and administration, but doesn't directly criticize the failed attack itself. How do you take that?
I think that the presupposition should be that Dick Cheney is opposed to a terrorist attack on the United States. I think everyone can agree on that point. I think Dick Cheney's point, though, is that the president, he doesn't want to talk about the war on terror. He seems to have conveyed this image around the world that he's not a big fan of the idea that America is the world leader, which we are, that we're one of a couple hundred. And I mean, to James's point, I don't think anybody has to worry about the president invading any country. He seems to be totally opposed to being in the countries we're in right now, including Afghanistan.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't know. Maybe I misread it. I thought he sent 30,000 more of our young people over there. By the way, this administration's blown up more terrorists with drones in Pakistan in last year than probably any year in the past. I think there's this thing, just because you don't go out and run your mouth every day and you sit and you do the job, that's fine with me. All these bellicose speeches and invading countries and, you know, torturing people, I don't think that's necessary. If, in fact, they find out where this systemic breakdown is, that's going to be fine with me.
What about the blame?
There's every evidence that they're very aggressively killing these guys in Pakistan. He committed 30,000 more. That was on top of the 20,000 troops that he committed to Afghanistan. Something that makes me a little queasy. But
they're doing so well. In fact,
no matter what he does. No matter what he does, these guys are going to criticize him.
They're doing so well, James, at killing folks overseas that they're inspiring them to come here, because if they come here, they're going to get indicted. They're not going to get thrown in Gitmo.
Let's stop all that for a second, though, because that's honestly, hey guys, that's a separate conversation. One of the things we really want to focus on here is this political blame game that has come out and really seems to be, at this point, such an established part of the rhetoric in this country, especially for the last few months, and as we head into the 2010 elections. Eric, why does it have to be that everything is about pointing the political finger when it seems everybody can agree that at least one of the things they want to get to the bottom of is where is this systemic failure?
Well, you know, that is the unfortunate thing. When you go back even to the 9/11 Commission, it was stacked with Democrats who blamed Republicans and Republicans who blamed Democrats. It's very, very hard in Washington these days to have an honest conversation about anything. James is right to the extent we need to find out that where the systemic failure was in this situation. At the end of the day, someone's got to be held responsible. The problem is that right now there is a Democratic administration, so it'll probably be a Democrat held responsible. So the Democrats will defend against that. The Republicans will attack against that. And, I mean, we have to look at this, that both Democrats and Republicans collaborated in building this massive, ineffective bureaucracy called the Department of Homeland Security. That all of Washington needs to be held accountable.
Yeah, I'm for finding out who's responsible. It might be some career. I don't know who it is, but let's find out what the facts are and address them. And I don't know why, and every time the Republicans attack on this, it blows back up in their face. They ought to just say, let's get to the bottom of this. And I suspect when we get to the bottom of this, there'll be plenty of people to attack. But right now, I fly a lot. I'm sure Eric does. I want to know how a guy can get 3 ounces of plastic in his underwear and literally come close to blowing up an airplane. I'm curious and concerned about this.
So then do you think either one of you, because it seems that we can agree on that point at least, that this is what people want answers to, is either side going to call off the political attack dogs?
You know, I don't know. First of all, I guess I would point out the obvious that the Democrats didn't start the attack, but maybe so. Maybe
but as
somebody,
you said, even the response from the White House, not the way you would have done it. And you know, they are coming back on certain things.
I agree. I wouldn't have done it that way. I would have been, you know, in a much different way. But that doesn't detract from the fact that I think the president's response has been, if he's trying to get to the bottom of this, let's get to the bottom of it. And then look, somebody needs to swing at the end of a rope here. I don't mean literally. I mean, somebody's got to lose their job over this. So something's got to happen. Somebody's got to be held accountable here. There was some breakdown somewhere, and let's find out where it was.
This is really the first time the Democrats are in charge to deal with the war on terror, and missteps happen. That's natural, but it doesn't help when the president refers to this guy as an isolated extremist and we find out the next day Al-Qaeda is willing to take responsibility. And it really doesn't help when the Secretary of Homeland Security, who says she doesn't like to use the word terrorism, goes on TV on Sunday and says the system worked when it clearly didn't.
And who has since retracted that. And that's something we're going to continue to dig into. James Carville, Eric Erickson, many thanks.